Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending today. We have a lot to go over. I'm just really grateful to be here today with everybody. I'm going to try to adjust the camera. Thank you, Sophia, for that introduction. And we are coming to you from Change Labs in Tuba City in Tonanistezza, Arizona. And I really just wanted to talk today about how you can get yourself and your business ready for financing, whatever that may be. And so we'll kind of get into a little bit of understanding what the terminology is. We will also talk about how to look at your business, who to evaluate your business. We'll give you some tools, some checklists, some videos, some worksheets that you can use to help you get ready and just overall feel more confident about asking for money. So I know that gets to be a little bit scary for a lot of people. And it's also, we're not used to doing things like that. We're not used to asking for resources or money for anything. So we'll talk a little bit about the differences of the different types of loans that are out there and how you should be thinking about that for your business. Okay, and I forgot that Zoom doesn't show you what you're showing. So do you see my slideshow or just the screen deck or slide deck? Can anybody get off mute and tell me?
So we see your entire screen, Jess.
Okay, and I'm not sure which screen I'm sharing. Let's see. Is that the slideshow or no?
Yep, you're good. That's the slideshow.
Okay, all right. So today is December 18th, in case you guys don't know. We're going to be going over the slide. The title of the presentation is 10 Things Entrepreneurs Can Do to Get Ready for Financing. But the truth is that it's actually, I'm going to be giving you a lot more than 10 things. So it's a little bit, we came up with the title and I was thinking we'll keep it really clean. But then afterwards it was like, well, it's not, that's sort of a half thing. So it got a little bit more complicated, but that's okay. So I'm Jessica Stago. As Sophia said, I'm a co-founder here at Change Labs. And I think that one of the reasons, I think people know what we do. We're here to help small businesses and entrepreneurs to start and grow their businesses. That's what we do on a daily basis. But I think a lot of people don't quite understand yet why we do this. And it is a very cool job. It's very fun and exciting to work with entrepreneurs and to be around creative people and people trying to solve problems. Everybody, the whole team really enjoys that. But the overall goal is to provide our businesses and the entrepreneurs in our community with the resources that they need to build our economies within our community. So when you look around in your community, you'll see that there's not a lot of small businesses. If you're on the reservation, if you compare your community to a community that is off the reservation, one of the border towns, I live in Winslow, so if you look at Winslow, there's over 100 businesses and the population is only about 10 to 12,000. If you look at community of Tuba City, there's probably like 20,000 people here, and there's so probably double the population, but very few businesses. And so, and what happens is that we don't have jobs, then we don't have tax base, we don't have revenue, and we can't have nice things like good roads and water. So those are the reasons why we're trying to build our economy in our communities and support those who are trying to do that, and also solve problems by bringing valuable products and services into the community. So one of the main strategies that we've decided to take on this next year is the Navajo Small Business Credit Initiative. It is a loan program specifically for Navajo entrepreneurs, but there are other tribes that also have these funds or are seeking these funds and might have programs coming forward with providing lending or other type of capital programs for small businesses. But for Change Labs, over the next year, we're launching the Navajo Small Business Credit Initiative, which is a huge sort of, once in a lifetime opportunity that we're getting to deploy capital in this way. And we have several programs that can do that. And so it's just about finding the type of program that fits for you and your business. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But we've also launched a program that we call kinship loans. We launched it in 2020, and it's part of another program out of New Mexico called Co-op Capital. And Co-op Capital launched to provide financing to small businesses with an approach of what they call relationship-based lending, which is a different process that banks undertake when they look at your business. It's more about bringing people into a community, into an ecosystem, such as Change Labs, and getting to know their business, getting to know their struggles, partnering with them to find the resources that they need for their business, but also providing them with the capital that they could use that gives them the room to move around, that gives them the room to launch their ideas and work on their business and grow their business without being strapped up by not having the money or the capital to do it. So in 2020, we launched kinship loans. So this next iteration is just an expansion of that. But we also know that people hesitate about getting loans and about the capital that they need. And a lot of it is just because by design, the financial industry keeps businesses and borrowers kind of in the dark about how they look at you, how they evaluate your business, how they evaluate you as an entrepreneur. And that's just part of the business. It's just how things are done. So we are trying to give that kind of information out and say, okay, if you're planning to finance your business, you need to start thinking about these things. This is one, how you're going to be evaluated by a bank, but also giving the opportunity to access financing that you need to get started and then grow your business based on your needs and the amount of money that you need to grow that business. So that's just kind of an overview of what we'll be doing or what we'll be talking about. I do encourage you to speak up whenever you want. If you have a question or if you have a comment about something, also, it doesn't have to be just questions. Please comment about your own experience with some of the things that we'll be talking about and going over. And my goal today is really just to have you be ready for the money, because I think a lot of businesses, they kind of don't operate as if they're going to be needing money or at some point wanting to expand and will need the financing to do it. So today we're going to talk about just making sure that you're continually thinking about that and doing the right things that you need to do to be ready. So on a scale of 1 to 10, if you could do me a favor and just write, how confident are you about seeking and obtaining capital for your business? If you don't have a business and you're looking for startup funds, this applies to you as well. If you're not in business and you haven't started your business, just how confident are you about lending or about investing, and so I can kind of gauge where people are. And so it looks like we're around 5, 6, 7, 8, so somewhere around the middle, which is good. Delphina says she's at 7, but I bet she's much higher than that. So I feel like people get ideas basically just by random thoughts. So I kind of wanted to go through a few and really to talk about why small businesses normally need financing. And some of you will probably identify with this. And I'm just going to adjust something on my screen really quick. Okay. So some of you may identify with some of these, or you might have other random thoughts. So go ahead and just, as we're going through this, type your own, the thoughts you've had as you're working and thinking about your business, and mostly about why people look for financing. So Summer here is busy at work, making handbags. And she's probably thinking it'd be really nice to be able to produce more by hiring people to work for us. So how could she get the funding to add on employees? And how do you think about that? Is it part-time? Is it full-time? What costs are associated with doing that? How much money do I really need? And how much money do I need to pay this person on an ongoing basis and keep employees? I think that's probably the highest stressor with small business owners is meeting payroll on a biweekly basis, having enough money in that bank account to meet payroll. And that's a very real stress for small businesses, and how you deal with that, and making sure that you have the sales to do that. So, and it's all just, it comes down to planning usually. Here we have a photographer who is probably thinking about, in the beautiful area that we live in, this is Lake Powell area. But across the Navajo Nation, the tourism business is one of our most active businesses and industries on the nation. People from all over the world come to visit our lands, and there's not a lot of businesses that can absorb those dollars right now. And so any small business who is looking to cater to those visitors, who's looking to invite them and welcome them onto our lands and provide tours or provide access to some areas that aren't typically well known, has a real opportunity to grow a business to grow a business right now. But it does take funding. It does take, especially in the tourism business, because you want to make sure that you have all the resources that you need, and you have enough resources to really provide a great experience for those visitors. Because in tourism, word of mouth advertising spreads faster than you could even imagine. Especially now with the internet and social media. There's people out there that all they do is travel and provide reviews online. That's their job. So you really want to make sure that you have the resources to do that. And so you really want, if you start a business in that area, you want to make sure I have enough working capital to provide this type of experience. And this is who my target customer is, and this is how I'm going to do this. So again, random thoughts that the photographer, he started a tour. This was prior to the pandemic, a photography tour company, and just needed, he already had the photography equipment, but needed the equipment, which is vehicles to shuttle his visitors around. And then here's Kelsey. Kelsey has shared her dream of creating a full-scale video production facility here in Tuba City, or in Cameron, actually, I should say. She's from Cameron, so somewhere in the Western Agency. And there's a big community of creatives in this area, photographers and videographers and storytellers and artists and media artists, and they don't have a facility or a place where they can go and work and focus on their art and focus on producing storytelling products that the world would want to see. And so, but something like this is a huge project, right? It's not like there's a building there that's just available that she can lease and start the business. She's more than likely going to have to get the land, build the building, which means she has to think through all of the infrastructure, the lighting, the electricity, the water lines, even how the transportation, getting people to the site, getting them safely out of the site, the parking, everything when you start a business like that on the nation. And so how do you think about that? How do you even begin to put together a plan to get that type of project funded? And so again, it's like, it's a dream, but where do you start, and how do you set yourself up or set your business up to move in that direction. So I'm gonna just share some of these. Jeff, hi Jeff, says, I think I could do more if I could buy land. So buying land definitely is a big investment. Delphina says filing my prior year taxes, catching up on filing taxes, start closing and reviewing your year-end financials. So I think Delphina is providing some tips. And Delphina her business is Water Edge Financials. And her business provides bookkeeping and financial. Delphina, do you want to introduce yourself and talk about your services?
No, just in general, like my current clients and potential clients, a lot of us small business owners, especially, Indigenous business owners, where I'm trying to encourage everybody to start applying for these opportunities like the Nabisky loan that you guys are offering. But I know that we need to, as business owners, we need to take care of our prior year taxes and catching up on filing. And it's okay that we're in that position because we're all startups, but I think it's our due diligence to just catch up now so you can seek those opportunities. That's where I see it. And I just noticed a few of lately my potential client meetings. A lot of them are saying that they haven't filed like maybe 2 to 3 years back. And I know that some of these opportunities are requiring at least a 3-year tax filing information. That way you can do your projections. And then just an FYI, we're closing out in the next 2 more weeks to close out your small business financials. So start reviewing, closing out, look at your software, your accounting software. Where do you need to recognize your expenses and revenues, start your 1099s. All those things are going to be getting ready to be closed out, and we need to file the 1099s next month. So that's just around the corner. So just reviewing how much you're paying out your 1099s, your contract workers, contractors, because most of the time we're not, as small business owners, we are not having employees. We sign contract laborers to a lot of other stuff. So just getting ready, making sure that you pay them the correct amount and you're sending those 1099s out. So things like that. I do have a closeout checklist that I do for my clients. So just getting ready is really important. That way you're not having a stressful headache starting next month, and just start reviewing some of the things you need to catch up on.
Sorry about that. We had a visitor come into the hub. So thank you for that, Delphina. And that's kind of a little bit about what we'll be talking about moving forward. But I also want to let you know that Delphina does a whole video about bookkeeping and about keeping on top of your finances. And and so I'll share that video with you in a playlist at the end of this presentation. I put together a YouTube playlist from our videos on the Change Labs YouTube site, specifically about some of the things that we're talking about today, and just so that you have access to that information. Okay, so, and then Jeff was talking about buying land. And sometimes it's kind of a little bit weird, but sometimes it's easier to get the big dollars to buy something as to buy an asset like land than it is to get like smaller amounts of money to pay for expenses. Banks and investors want to purchase, especially banks, when they make a loan, they want to purchase assets for the business. They want to purchase something that has value, especially if you're purchasing something that's going to grow in financial value, such as land, which is real estate, or buildings. Those things grow in value as time goes on. So the bank, that gives the bank some added security that their money is going to be paid back because this asset is actually growing, as opposed to giving you a loan for like working capital, which is just money that's going out the door and you're not sure how it's going to actually benefit the business overall. So what the first tip here is just to be clear about your funding requests, how much capital is needed, and why you are seeking capital. Do you need to hire additional people? Do you need to purchase a piece of equipment? Do you want to purchase land and build a building? What are the actual what are you going to be spending that money on? How will you use that financing? And that's thinking about that will help you to think about, okay, what should looking at my financial situation, what are the things that I need to do to be ready for a loan that way? And especially to get past any kind of underwriting. And so just for those of you who aren't sure about the terminology, underwriting is basically the process where once you give a bank all of your information, there's an application, there's income taxes, like 2-3 years of income taxes, there's financial statements, there's a whole packet of paperwork that you have to provide to the bank when you're applying for a loan. And then they take all that information and they go back and they do their own evaluation and their own calculation about what kind of risk you are as a business. And that process is called underwriting. And that's that sort of, there's a banker back in a dark closet that's looking at all your stuff, and they're doing all the math, and they're thinking, how do, what do we need to see here to approve this loan? And rarely do you actually get to talk to that person. That's just the way the system is set up. But so that's underwriting. And when you're asking for a loan, they underwrite basically on different things. If you're looking for land and buildings, they underwrite a certain way. If you're looking for working capital, they underwrite a certain way. If it's just equipment, they underwrite a certain way. So it's a lot of cloudiness there, but just be aware of that. So that's one thing. Make sure that you really have a clear understanding of what it is that you would like to be funded for. So this is one of the most obvious things that you'll have to do is to create a business plan. The business plan gives you the opportunity in underwriting to tell that banker to communicate your vision with those bankers about what it is you want to do and how it's going to work and how you're going to be able to generate revenue that will pay back the loan. And I'm kind of focusing a lot on lending and on loans. There's all kinds of different ways to obtain capital for your business. So if you have any questions about that, just feel free to either put it in the chat or unmute and ask the question. There's many different types of loans as well. So feel free to ask any questions. But the business plan really just is, like I said, it's your opportunity to tell your story and to provide the vision for your business and to communicate that to anybody, to any investor. And again, I'm using the term investor. It could be a bank, it could be your relative, it could be a angel investor or some wealthy person who is looking to provide funding for small businesses, or maybe somebody who just wants to see your business succeed. And it could also be, the public. There's different ways now that you can put your idea out there. Kickstarter is one, GoFundMe is one, where you can lay out your plan for people and see and ask them to invest in your business in different ways. So it's really, being clear about what your business goals are. Make sure that your business plan describes who your target market is, how you look at your competitors, remembering that sometimes your competitors is not a direct person or the direct business that does the same thing you do. It's whatever option that you might have.
This is a pumpkin one. Yeah.
We can't hear you, Jessica.
That was weird. How long have I been muted? Okay. So your target market is really important because you can't, if you're looking at generating revenue, you have to really understand exactly who it is you're talking to when you're promoting your product or service. It's really difficult to have a solid revenue model if you don't know who you're talking to. So, and I want to share that we have worksheets for all of these. So we'll share a folder that has all of these worksheets that you can use to kind of to get your idea started on who your target market might be. There's also another worksheet on the competitive analysis. Who are your competitors? And making sure that you understand, it might not be another business that's the same as you or offers the same product or service. It's whatever other option your customer might have than purchasing your product or your service. So understanding that dynamic, and sometimes, you know, if your products are priced higher because you consider, you know, your product to be of a higher quality than your competitors, that's something you really want to highlight and make sure that you point that out in your business plan. You also want to again look at your revenue models, understanding how the business will actually generate revenue. And generate consistent and regular revenue. And I think a lot of people get concerned about this when they're looking for financing, because sometimes, and a lot of times, your revenue is not necessarily on a consistent basis, like every month. Your sales are up and down. But I think that then the strategy would be, how do you get your revenue to be at least regular, where you know what months you're down, what months you're up. So you can do what you need to do to balance out that cash flow, but we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. What's your growth strategy? Any kind of investor or loan or lender will want to know how does the business generate revenue, but also how is it going to grow that revenue base? Are you going to add more and more customers to your market, or from your market to purchase from you, or are you going to generate more business from the existing customer base that you have? So those kind of strategies are what the investor would be looking for. And also, how are you going to minimize any risks? So understanding what are the risks to your revenue models, what are the risks to your growth strategies, and identifying those ahead of time is better than not acknowledging that there's risk there, because the banker or the investor will assume that you're not aware of that. So it's better to look at your whatever risks, or what, you know, if something doesn't happen the way that you plan, there's a risk that you won't meet that level of revenue that you need for the goals that you've set forth. But stating that and saying, here's what I'm going to do if that doesn't happen, or here's another area that I can pursue if it looks like that's what's happening. And then, of course, your financial projections need to be there. And Delphine mentioned about keeping up with your regular bookkeeping and your records management in order to be ready to do financial projections and have the right accurate information about how your business operates from a financial perspective, because the numbers tell a story, and every business is going to have a certain amount of risk. But if you can look at your numbers and you really understand what's happening there, that's where you begin to understand what your revenue model needs to be and how you make adjustments when there's risk, and also what are alternatives if your strategies aren't going the way that you want them to go. So providing 2 to 3 years of financial information, meaning your financial statements, the cash flow statement, the income statement, the balance sheet. These 3 financial statements, again, you can, there's a lot of resources out there for you to generate these, or for you to get yourself ready to generate financial statements. The most important thing, of course, is bookkeeping. And it's important for you to reach out to get help if you don't understand how bookkeeping works, what you need to be thinking about, how you need to implement that in your daily management of your business, so that at some point you're ready to develop financial statements. And it doesn't matter if you're a really small business or if you're a large business. This is equally important in both of those businesses. So a lot of people, I think I'm too small, I don't really need to do that. And that really limits what you can do when you're ready to move on, or if you see an opportunity to make a move that's either going to create additional revenue for you or increase your revenue in some way, or it might be something that's going to help you to be more financially efficient. You might, be able to free up some money by hiring somebody, or free up some time by hiring somebody, or become more efficient by getting a better piece of equipment and investing in that. And over time, that's going to reduce your costs. So those kind of opportunities might come up, and that's where you do need to have some flexibility in your financing. So even if you're a very small business, making sure that you're keeping your financial management records intact and consistently working on that, or at least having somebody that's going to do that for you, because you can always hire that out and hire somebody to do that for you. And it's also, just want to share from our experience, when we first started, we didn't have anybody who we couldn't find a bookkeeper. And this was across the region. I'd get calls even from businesses in Winslow, or those small towns are like, we're looking for a bookkeeper. We can't find a bookkeeper. There wasn't any bookkeepers in the market. And so you had CPAs who are very expensive, providing bookkeeping services, which again, very expensive service. So now that's not the case. We do have several bookkeepers and people who do bookkeeping for small businesses. And so take advantage of that and invest in your business by paying somebody. If you're just like, I don't know how to do this. All I know how to do is make sales in this way. I'm not even sure what to do with my receipts. There's people out there that can help you. Any questions on the bookkeeping or on the financial information? We do have, there's videos on these 3 financial statements as well. So I didn't want to go too much into it. So if you have any questions, please, or you have something, if you have an experience you want to share. All right, so we'll keep going. All right, so this is another just kind of checklist item. It's making sure that you have a legal foundation, making sure your business is legally compliant if you're going to need additional capital. If it looks like you're going to need additional capital, you have if there's just an idea of getting at some point looking for additional capital, it's just best to to understand what the legal foundation is that you need and make those decisions. Even if you decide that you're not going to become an LLC or a corporation, if you're going to be a sole proprietor and you actively make that decision and understand the decision that you're making, that's that's the best practice. That's what you need to do to make sure that you'll be ready for any type of capital in the future. And then also just making sure your licenses are up to date, your any kind of legal and contracts that you need to have in place are up to date and in place. Okay, so demonstrating market potential. This is probably sort of this is about making sure that you're telling the story of, and the bankers understand what's the potential for your product or service in the market. The way that you manage your business is all about how you're taking advantage of your market potential. So doing market research, which is basically it could be going online, looking at, all the information out there, using AI to tell you how many businesses are in that industry, what's the state of the industry. I mean, there's so much information online that you could access, but also just going out and talking to potential customers or your existing customers. One of the activities that I always like to do and have people do is, put together a list of questions that you would like to ask your customers, and then see if you can take the opportunity whenever it becomes available to you to ask your customers those questions. Maybe you have a networking event and your customers are there and you can attend, and you just start asking these questions about the business and about how they see the product or service, and getting that information directly from your customers is really, really important. Also, what's happening over time in your industry that is creating an opportunity? Is there something that's, happening that in the industry in general, what that will create some sort of opportunity for you in the future? It might be in the near future, or might be over time, might be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. But what is going to happen in your industry by that's going to change customer demand, or create any kind of trends? Right now, a lot of people are looking at AI and generative AI and how that's going to impact their industry. And so just recently, I'm on the advisory board for South by Southwest. And so I was able to review a lot of their pitches for their pitch competition. And like everything is AI, everything from using AI to create individual, a beer, like a microbrewery beer for an individual using AI. So somebody being able to just sort of like say, I like this beer, but I want it to be more orange flavor, and being able to use AI to send that to the company, and then they create something and they send it out. I mean, there's just like so many ideas around it, and some of them aren't that well thought out. And so it's just a matter of like, people are looking at the trend of AI and trying to apply it, and some of them are reaching for straws. Some of them have really good idea. A lot of them in the video production industry that are using that are now creating software that will match up the artists whose content is being used in AI with the companies who want to use that content, and making sure that there's legal contracts in place, so that the company who wants to use AI but doesn't want to be sued for using somebody else's content can make sure they're paying the artist, and the artist can get paid. So just creating that relationship there. It's a trend that people have seen in the last 2 years with AI. And so technology companies are catching on, and they're saying, okay, there's a market opportunity here. If we can create this, make it easy for this to happen, it'll be used by a lot of companies, and it's another product. So that's just looking at trends and creating and looking at what the market potential is. Your value proposition, again, we have worksheets for this. The business model canvas is a great tool for this, for all of these areas, and to just kind of write down your thoughts. But your value proposition is, really what a value that are you producing or providing to your customers that they're actually paying for. And then everything you do is around making sure that you're meeting the commitment to that value, and that you're telling your story, that you're informing your customers about that value, so that they can seek your product or your service, and they can purchase that. So that's basically, your value proposition. And again, lots of resources and tools out there for that. Your competitive analysis, again, just we talked about this earlier, making sure that you really understand who your competitors are, or what your competitors are offering that you're not offering, and how are you mitigating that risk. Maybe there's, your target customer is different, and so it's worthwhile for you to focus on that target customer versus trying to provide a service to everybody or a product to everybody. So in the chat, Raquel shared that Dwayne's one of the coaches here at Change Labs, can answer questions about market research, and he'll be providing coaching next year. So if you'd like Dwayne's help to wade through the mountain of information out there, you can request a coaching session with him on our website. Okay. So another piece of this is building a strong team, making sure that the investors know that you have a team, that you or if you are a one-man team, that what your qualifications are, what your abilities are, your leadership in the community, in the industry, or the people that are on your team, if you do have employees, what are their qualifications, what are their skills, to make sure that you voice that your team was was strategically created for your business's vision and the goals that you have for the business. And then this next tip about networking is really, I think we all love to go to events, to networking events, to business luncheons, to conferences, and it's a fun time. But I think we have to begin to remember that one, you're spending money and time by attending the events. So what are you getting out? What is your business getting out of that conference or out of that luncheon? Are you meeting people who can help you with your business? Are you meeting people who provide professional services in terms of bookkeeping and accounting, maybe attorneys and legal advice in some way, other advisors, potential mentors that you can rely on when you need to talk to somebody about your business, building relationships with those kind of people. And with other Change Labs, we have a lot of events here to help people to build those kind of relationships because it's really valuable in the end. It helps you to see how other people see your business. So it gives you sort of an outsider's look at the way people are, especially people in the industry, and especially people like legal advisors and accountants, if you're looking for capital. How do they see your business? What risks do they see if they were considering investing in your business? And then that way you have the opportunity to address those when you're actually going before investors. So just make sure that the time that you spend on these things is really time well spent, and that you're getting some return on that time and effort for networking. So this is a checklist, literally a checklist. All the things that you need to be thinking about if you're going to be either applying for a loan. You also might want to be applying to a competition, like a pitch competition, where there's cash money for prizes. And so you need to make sure your business is ready if in case you win that competition. That's another area of another opportunity for capital is pitch competitions, because what it does is it forces you to think through all of this. It forces you to be ready for these questions and to put your best foot forward so that even if you don't make it through and win the pitch competition, you'll continue on the journey of obtaining capital. And business owners, that's part of their job, is as an owner of a business, you're always going to be seeking additional resources for your business. It could be in the form of capital. It could be like institutional capital, meaning a business loan or a working capital line of credit from your business. But it could also be access to mentors, having somebody there that has been very successful in your industry, and having them support your business and also support you as an entrepreneur. So there's a lot of ways, again, to provide capital for your business, but being ready for that it's like 50% of actually obtaining that capital. And so this is just a checklist. Again, we'll give you access to the folder where this document is at, but it works just like a checklist. And then once you finish this, then you'll kind of have an idea of where you are and be able to seek the right help for if you, let's just say you're under service providers and you might have a bookkeeper, you might have an accountant, but maybe you also need to execute a contract and you need some legal support for that. So you'll be able to understand, okay, this is where I'm lacking, or my business is lacking right now. I need to find this resource somehow. So we can talk a little bit about, and of course, some of these things do cost money to implement in your business. If you're looking at how do I pay for this, it's really something that you need to go back to putting into your projections as a cost, and then you'll understand, how do I get my revenue to that point where I can pay for that service? And that's just, about being creative in your strategy to increase your sales or widen your market, as I've said before. So this tool is going to be in the workshop or worksheets folder that I mentioned. Any other questions? Okay, so those are like the 10 plus things that you can do to get yourself ready for a loan. But I also want to talk about mindset, because the mindset, so if you do all those things, you're about 50% there. The mindset is probably about the next 40%. And it's sometimes it's a barrier for people to think through getting capital for their business, and how, because there's, the technical pieces of it, the numbers. As I said, there's resources out there for you. There's coaching available for you. A lot of if you're going for a bank loan, a lot of the bankers that you'll interface with really do want to support you and really do want you to get that loan. The underwriter is the one that's saying, whoa, we need to do this. This is not within our risk profile. So, but that banker will really, work to help you to get you everything that you need in your application. They'll say, well, this is going to be a flag here. This is, this looks a little bit shaky. Can we strengthen that? They'll help you to do that. So don't be afraid to start the process. At Change Labs, we provide coaching, we provide workshops, we provide videos that can help you to, again, do a lot of this paperwork, right? Getting your financial statements done. Who can I talk to do my bookkeeping? We can connect you with people. And I think so there's a lot of resources to get you to the 50%. But the rest of it is a lot about mindset. It's getting past that internal hesitation about asking for money, or being sure about getting a loan and committing to a payment for your business, or being, I think, unsure about your sales revenue, your revenue streams, and your strategy for sales, and how you and what level of sales you have to reach. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and just kind of asking what's the hesitation, and going through a little bit of what we've heard from other entrepreneurs. So if you want, just type your answers into the chat whenever you want to, or if you think of something. But one of the things we hear a lot is about not wanting a loan and having a preference for growing slowly versus and at your own pace, meaning within the financial model that I have, or the financial resources that I have available to me right now. I'd rather go ahead and just, start small and grow, which is a great strategy for a lot of people, and which, you're betting on yourself. And so that's really admirable, and it's really a good strategy for a lot of startups, because in the beginning you really need to make sure your costs are as low as they possibly can be to get you through the startup stage, because that part is what's the most difficult. But if you've been in business for a while and you have ongoing, consistent, and regular revenue, that's when you really need to think about, am I doing everything possible to grow my business in a way that's efficient? And a lot of times I think that the hesitation is not that they can't, that they're worried about being able to afford a loan, being able to make those loan payments every month. It's more, there's something else there that holds back, that's creating that hesitation. And so, I think addressing that is a good idea for most people, addressing some of the reasons. And I think that some of the reasons is we have always been told, because of our experience historically with loans and borrowing from companies and from institutions. Grandma said, never take a loan or credit or get a credit card, right? We're taught that. it's kind of drilled in our head as young people, like, don't put yourself in that position. It's an awful position to be in. But I want to say that the position, that behavior and that treatment by institutions started, because of the historical relationship between Indigenous people and capitalism, the way that we built our own economies before we had systems like the value of the dollar, the cash system that we put on ourselves, the misalignment of values in that situation created really bad relationships between borrowers and lenders and within our communities. And so that's why and then it just kind of became even worse when we started getting auto loans, and then personal loans, and then payday loans. So it became a cycle of abuse for our people. And so that's why, it's just kind of drilled into us that you do not get a loan, you do not borrow. But you also hear stories of really good relationships between community members and maybe the local trader. There's some stories of the traders who valued their relationship with the people and provided, credit at the trading posts, so that people could continue to buy to get food. You also hear, and I think in in modern times, you really have to think about the lending products. What are these products designed to do? So at Change Labs, our co-op capital product is designed to give an entrepreneur or a change maker access to a financial resource to grow their idea, to put financial resources into an idea that's going to help grow the economy in some way, regardless of that person's access to assets that would be used as collateral, or regardless of that person's history that's reflected in their credit score. So that's a product that's out there, and Change Labs is not the only one that's doing this. There's Native Women Lead has a loan program that does this. There's also a new loan program that's being rolled out called Rooted Relative Fund that's also doing this, and there's several others. So if you're looking for that, look for that type of a product. There's also, we're able with the Navajo Small Business Credit Initiative, we're able to expand on that idea and request or provide higher amounts within that same product line, higher amount loans. But we are asking for a partnership relationship with the borrowers to make sure that those loan dollars are going to grow a business, and that business is going to grow and provide additional a good product or service to the community, or additional jobs, that people, that they're going to expand their business and hire people, or they're going to expand their business and it's going to have a good impact on other entrepreneurs in the community. So we're looking for those type of partnerships and looking to say, okay, how do we use the money that we have available to provide as loans to do this good work and provide the financial resource for the entrepreneurs and the change makers that are doing that. So that's kind of how we see that. It's really, really difficult to underwrite in the same form that bankers underwrite loans. But we're constantly reiterating how are we doing that and what are we doing to make sure that we're being responsible with the funding, but also that we are not leaving people behind in terms of good ideas on the table, or investing in entrepreneurs that really have a vision that they're pursuing. So another hesitation is about just the business being unstable or seasonal. Not being sure, this is really not being completely sure that your revenue is consistent enough that you can pay on a monthly basis. And I think, again, we have a product that can be used to provide some solutions to a business that's like this, but the entrepreneur does have to commit to making sure that they are staying on top of their bookkeeping, that they're staying on top of their records management, so that what's happening in the business is clearly visible to the entrepreneurs and they're making decisions based on that information. And that's really why we want to help to provide those type of that type of coaching, the resources needed to look at your bookkeeping, and also the bookkeeping services that are out there that can help you to organize your business into this valuable resource of your financial statements and your financial outlooks. So there's ways that you can look at the longer term cash flow of the business. So you can say, okay, you need to get to this point, get a loan at this amount, and that's this cash needs to be injected, in month 10. And then that's going to give you enough leverage for to begin making payments, 4 months from that point. And so planning out those kind of seasonality in the business, and planning out the times where revenue kind of stops. It's, tourist season is that way. The dead of winter, there's not a lot of visitors, but also gets really busy in the warmer months of the spring, but then it gets really hot, and then the visitor count goes down again. So just understanding those things about your business and making sure that you're planning out for that, that's the type of resource that we can be, and that Change Labs can be, and the coaching that's available, and the tools that's available, and also the service providers that are available as well. So I'm going to check the chat. I don't see any other thoughts about hesitation. Does anybody want to come off mute and share?
Jessica, you're just wanting us to share about struggles?
Yeah, what are your hesitations with trying to either apply for a loan or really pursue capital for your business?
I can share. This is Joe Baya. I would say some of the struggles that I had, that I experienced both on and off the reservation, had to do with address credit. I usually had my physical address on the reservation for my whole lifetime, but when I went to apply for loans, that became an issue. And then when I lived in Alaska, and the native people there got different types of lending, if you live in a rural area, I noticed it was hard to get collateral properly assessed. You might see something that's worth a lot and is used, and in a rural village community, it might be more valuable than what underwriters might see, like in the regular cities. So those are a couple different struggles, challenges that I've experienced over my lifetime.
Rural addressing has definitely been a challenge for us and for a lot of people. As I said, I live in Winslow, and I think I get mail for like 3 different businesses. These are businesses that operate around the reservation, and so they don't have an address, so they've used my address, including Change Labs. Any other hesitation in terms of just either you're not understanding how your business is evaluated, or maybe maybe people generally misinterpret the way you operate your business, or they have or they see a risk in your business that you don't consider is a risk. And speaking to Joe's comment about location and the whole dark shadows of underwriting, even your address is taken into consideration with underwriting. So if your address is on the reservation, it's automatically a red flag. And that has to do with even mortgage loans, any type of lending. That's the case. Recently was a study done called Redlining the Reservation, and it talked a lot about that, about how our communities have just been left out of the financial industry because of the reservation land status, were deemed by automated underwriting processes to be too risky. And I would probably argue that it's not always even automated. It's just institutional risk standards, even done by humans, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of, in wrapping up, some strategies to remember as you're going along with your daily work of building your business, or maybe being in business. Focusing on revenue strategies to build that consistent income. If you have consistent income, even if it's not monthly, on a monthly basis, even if it's like, you know, every few months you get a certain amount of income, focusing on building that income, that revenue is what you need to do to create a long-term story about your business and your ability to generate revenue or generate growth for capital, for any type of capital. So that's one thing as you go, you know, what is building your income? What is building your revenue? Is your revenue strategy that you have in your head that you do every day? Like, it could be online, or it could be vending, or it could be providing services to people in your community. What is that strategy that's creating the revenue? How can you build on it? So you're creating more revenue, even, you know, on a consistent basis, or you're creating the opportunity for revenue more consistently. Understanding and keep an eye on what drives your costs, and making sure that at every turn you're trying to minimize that. Looking at, are you paying fees that you shouldn't be paying? Are you traveling to places on a, you know, consistent basis, and can you reduce that travel? Are you paying for services that you don't really need or use? So what's driving your costs, and making sure that you're working to minimize those costs. And then I think Delphine started the presentation with this, but it was my last slide, which is consistent management allows you to stay ready. So if you get yourself ready and you get to that, like I said, that's 50%. If you have a great mindset, that's 40% of the way. So if you consistently stay with that and keep your management of your bookkeeping and your financial records and your costs and looking at your revenues, if you consistently manage those things, then you'll stay 90% ready all the time. That 10% is just that last bit of actually doing the work of calling the bankers, calling the investors, doing the applications, doing the paperwork, doing the package, the loan package, or the pitch deck, all of those things that you'll need to actually put yourself in the running for some capital. That's the final 10% of that. So let me go ahead. I will post the YouTube channel. So Change Labs has a full YouTube channel with a ton of resources that you can access, but this, I'm going to try to post a link to a playlist that I think of the videos that are specific to what we talked about in this presentation. And then I'll also post a link to a worksheet folder that has a lot of the worksheets that I mentioned in the presentation, but that can help you with just some of the management pieces. I think I have to get off of to get to my links. That little drop down's not coming down. Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments they want to share? Okay, so here is the playlist for the YouTube, and then here's the worksheet folder. And that financial readiness worksheet, the checklist that I had up there, is in that folder. And I'll probably keep adding videos because I didn't have time to go through all of the videos. But there's a lot there. So, and make sure you access our coaching on our website. Sophia's probably popping on to say all this. Thank you, everybody. I'll also put my email in the chat in case anybody wants to contact me.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. Thank you so much for all of that information. That's going to be beneficial for when you do decide that you're going to seek capital for your business to take it a step further. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in for today's workshop.